Welcome to Hack Your Health with Dr. Nat, a transformative live stream TV show that brings wellness within everyone's reach. Each episode featuring expert guests delves into crucial topics like hormonal health, effective detoxification, and stress management through nervous system optimization. Gain practical insights into nutrition, supplementation, efficient workouts, and biohacking tools to enhance mental and physical health. So now, please welcome the host of Hack Your Health, Dr. Nat.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Hack Your Health with Dr. Nat. I am your host, Dr. Natalie Beauchamp. My aim for the show is crystal clear, and it is to bring you tools and strategy so you can be healthier. And there's no exception. It is no exception today with our topic, and I know it is a very popular topic. We're going to talk about female hormones. The title of the show is Female Formula: Keys to Hormonal Balance. And in the show, I have a guest that is an expert in the field of hormone, and she is going to help us understand the female hormone, because all through our lifespan, our hormones change and it can be challenging. So we're going to talk about estrogen, progesterone, and testosterone. We're also going to talk about measuring our hormones, because a lot of time, and we're going to talk about this, women go and get their hormone tested. They're not feeling so great, and the tests come back, that there's nothing. So we're going to dig deeper into what other tests are available. And we're also going to talk, obviously, about strategies in terms of diet and detox. And we're going to even talk about digestion, because believe it or not, we don't think of digestion when it comes to our hormones, but it is all connected. So my guest today is Dr. Lydia Thurton, and she is, as I mentioned, a naturopathic doctor. She's been in private practice for over 14 years. She really helps women of color with their hormone. That's her specialty, and also metabolic syndrome. And she is passionate about facilitating also mental health. She's done group with over 100 women to help them. And she's also an advocate for increasing personalized healthcare. And she's joined recently a company called Vitamin Lab, which is super interesting. And we might end up talking about that. So welcome to the show, Dr. Lydia.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate being here.
Excellent. So as I was mentioning, your background, I always like to start the show with, getting to know you a little bit more. You and I have not known each other for a long time, but we've chatted on the phone a few times and just connected really well. And you asked me about me and my story. So now, I'd love to hear about your story. What decided you to go into the health fields and into naturopathic medicine?
I think I've always been attracted to things that are both an art and a science, and that's really how I perceive my role as a naturopathic doctor. There's a lot of personal skills that you need, emotional health skills that you need, but combined with, data analytics and things of that nature. And it's an exciting field. There's always new things to learn, particularly within the field of hormones. You can make a big impact on people's lives with their hormonal health. And so my passion really lies there. So yeah, it's been a evolving journey. But yeah, I'm excited to talk to you tonight about hormones, because I do feel like women often are kind of underappreciated some of the issues that they go through in this regard.
Yeah. So, let's dive right in, because there is so much to cover. And like I said, we want people to understand their hormones better, what's available to them. And then, as always with the show, I like to leave people with practical tips. So let's bring the first question, which is the basic. What do we need to understand when it comes about hormone in our body? So let's bring in the first visual for Dr. Lydia to explain a little bit more.
Yeah, I use this visual to kind of understand what's wrong with our system. The hormones function as like I liken it to an orchestra where you need the flutes and the trombones and the violins to all be playing the same song. They all have their role to play. But when we look at health systems, oftentimes they're very segmented, they're very siloed. If you have a problem with your thyroid, you're going to see an endocrinologist. If you have a problem with ovulating, you're going to see a gynecologist. And we have these sort of separated, siloed healthcare systems, but really your hormones interact with each other. They all speak to each other. So you have your ovaries that are producing your estrogen and progesterone and tiny bits of testosterone. You have your adrenal glands. A lot of people don't think about those little triangular shaped glands that sit on top of your kidneys. They're producing hormones that regulate your blood pressure and certainly cortisol. A lot of people are quite conscious. They feel like they have problems with their cortisol, but they're not too sure what to do about it. They hear that it's a stress hormone and they know that they're darn stressed. So we're going to talk about that today. We have the pancreas that's secreting insulin and blood sugar regulation. Like if you're listening to this show and you have PCOS, we're going to talk about insulin and how that impacts your hormones. But it's a really beautiful system, the way it all works together. And I just want to affirm anybody watching, if you have a deep feeling inside, like something is up with my hormones, and you go to the doctor and they say everything's fine. Today, I just want to, really affirm you. Don't stop there. Keep going. Go see a naturopathic doctor. See somebody that takes you seriously. See somebody like Dr. Nat. Even if we can't help you, we'll point you in the right direction, because we have this very simplified view of hormones. We see these kind of diagrams where everything's separate, but it is really a constellation of symptoms. If you're having problems with estrogen, you can have brain fog. If you're having issues with insulin, it can cause you to not ovulate. These things do exist together, and you really need somebody that takes a systems approach. And that's what I'd like to share today.
That's great. So now, and you're so right that our system takes things in silos and not looking at the entire body. And I think the naturopathic approach and the chiropractic approach is we are doctors of cause, right? Like we like to go to find the source of the problem, and we have to look at the body as the complete entity. So what common problem do you see usually with your patients?
Yeah, so I see some things that are actual pathologies, like, say, endometriosis, polycystic ovarian syndrome. And then I see a gamut that runs more into just everyday stress. I just don't feel well. I just don't wake up with vitality. I don't have a sex drive. I feel like my hair's falling out. My skin's losing its luster. I just don't feel like myself. And there's quite a spectrum of disorders. People that just they have every month before they period, they're just terrorized with low moods and anxiety, and they know that it's something up with their hormones. But what do you do about it? They don't necessarily want to go on an antidepressant or something of that nature. Certainly, we can dive into perimenopause, because that's a period of up to a decade, usually about 8 years, where things are going buck wild. All kinds of things are happening to your period and such. So, and then the postmenopausal period, like let's age well, let's maintain our hormone status potentially with bioidentical hormones or not. But yeah, I really like to talk about it throughout the lifespan. And I'm passionate about this topic.
And even like with the young girls that have, they come into our office, and we have like PMS from the get-go and have to miss school and all of that stuff. And unfortunately, I mean, not that I want to dig too deep in the birth control pill, but again, is it really the first thing for the problem to be resolved, or are there other things that should be looked at before we put someone on hormone, before having a full picture of what's going on, right? So I find sometimes the regular system is very fast at trying to just fix something, but not looking as you do as a naturopath, right?
Yeah, and we can talk about the birth control pill. And it's funny that you bring that up. Thank you so much, because it was actually my first experience of natural medicine. I had terrible period cramps growing up as a teenager, and the only thing that helped me was Chinese medicine, because I didn't want to go on the birth control pill at that time. So yeah, let's really dive into this. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then so I guess you have a young lady that comes to your office. She's suffering from a lot of cramps and bent in two kind of thing from the pain. What's the first course of action? Because I think we're not going to have a choice but to go through the phases of life. I
Yep,
know we want to
let's
focus
do it.
on perimenopause and menopause as well, but let's give some insight to the young ladies that are watching and they're like, wow, this is not fun. Every month I have to not be functional for a day or two and so forth. So what do you usually look at when you look at these young ladies?
Yes, I love this question because there's actually so much you can do for this. So I kind of take it in layers. So first of all, you need symptomatic relief. You need something that's going to help with the pain. So two nutrients that really help with the pain are zinc and magnesium. You can add in a little bit of B6 too. But that combination, if you take it the week before your period, you take decent doses. I won't get into dosing exactly here, but if you take decent doses, it will help most people. You can add in a little bit of painkiller if you need to. It's not contraindicated to mix those together, but a zinc magnesium combo with vitamin B6 often does the trick. Layered upon that, I like to use anti-inflammatories. There's some excellent herbs that help with cramping and just sort of relax the nervous system. Like I might use, say, some lemon balm or passion flower, for example. And I really like a good omega-3 fish oil. And even if you're not a supplement person, you don't like taking supplements all the time, if you can load up the week before your period, often you can have tremendous benefit from that. And if you want to take painkillers, you can. It's not contraindicated. I also use if at the average Asian grocery store, they have pain patches. They usually come in a roll and they're like $12 for a roll that'll last you about 6 months. And you can cut off a roll and you just apply it to the lower abdomen. And it's like you're wearing a heating pad all day long. So I use those types of that combination. It takes a little bit of tweaking at times, but that combination I told you right there deals with most period cramps. Average, I'm not going to say endometriosis. That's another level. You need extra work there, which we can talk about if you'd like. But just practical tips. There you go.
Oh wow, that there's one that I did not even know myself. So, shall we dig a little bit more? Because we talked about where
Yep.
hormones are produced and so forth. But did you want to dig deeper in the hormone cascades to really understand hormones and how they are all connected?
Yeah, I'd love to show that visual, and not because we're taking people back to biology class. It's not for that, but I like people to understand how connected everything is, and that if you're having a problem in one area and you feel like something's going wrong in another area, you're not crazy. You're not. Okay. So, also a reason why cholesterol is not bad, because we get this sort of feeling that, oh, I have to watch my cholesterol, et cetera, et cetera. But no, your body needs cholesterol in order to make any of these hormones. These are your sex hormones. These are what regulates your fertility cycles to a certain degree, your sex drive, and just your overall. It's really it really comes down to how you experience life, like kind of your femininity, your masculinity, and the balance between the two. And we can supplement in all different ways along this cascade pathway. And so when you're advanced prescribing, you're looking at all of these different pathways, and you can help people along the way. So things I like to point out is that oftentimes when people have a lot of anxiety and poor sleep, if you check their progesterone, it is low. And the reason that it's low is because your body, you'll see progesterone in the pink there. I wish I could kind of use a pointer, but I'm pointing in my mind. You can see progesterone in the pink there. That pathway, your body will steal from progesterone to make cortisol. And that is a fundamental reason why stress impacts your period. I hope people are seeing that progesterone over there flows down to cortisol. So when we manage our stress better, we will. And it's not, I don't know, it's everybody's going to be a little bit stressed. That's fine. That's life. We have ups and downs with that, but there are also, again, supplements you can take that really help with stress. I don't know if you want me to throw any supplements out there. Do you want me to throw out my
Yeah,
top three?
please, please, because
Oh,
this is
okay.
an important
Okay.
one for sure.
Okay, top three supplements that deal with excess cortisol. If you have it, and it's good to get it measured, we're going to talk about that later. Ashwagandha, rhodiola, and something called phosphatidylserine. That combination of supplements heal a lot of people's cortisol dysregulation. It's not going to do it if you're not sleeping well. You can't have a horrible sleep schedule. But actually, you know what? Even if you're not sleeping well, there's evidence to suggest that ashwagandha helps with sleep cycle. So,
Mhm.
sleep is just so important for cortisol. That's why I mention it. But those three supplements combined together really work well. You can try one and see how it goes. But progesterone also, what's interesting about progesterone is you'll see it flows down to aldosterone. And aldosterone is how, when we retain sodium, it makes us bloated kind of before our periods. That's why that happens to us. So I really love this pathway because it really shows kind of what all is happening. Another hormone I really like to point out, because it's severely overlooked and it's very important for people with PCOS, is the androstenedione that kind of flows from progesterone. That one, if you have PCOS, if you're not ovulating, if you feel like you have hair growing on your chin, or you have some acne and you feel like you can't lose weight, get that one checked, because it's just as important as determining if you have follicles that aren't ovulating, if you have the polycystic ovaries. So I really like that one. I think it's important to understand that women have more testosterone than estrogen. So testosterone is extremely important to have checked as well in women. And we can see the dihydrotestosterone that flows from testosterone. That is another thing that's very interesting to check if you think you have that PCOS symptom picture. How you'll know you have problems with that is you will have jawline acne. That's the number one thing it causes for women. If you are getting before your period that type of acne, what works for that is something called saw palmetto, which is a testosterone blocker. Usually what you'll see, this works for me so often, and it's very, very weird. It's usually in a prostate supplement. So that same testosterone that causes prostate problems, you can use it to heal that jawline acne. Usually it's that sore cystic acne you get before your period. So if anybody thinks they have PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome, which typically is characterized by long periods over 35 days, insulin resistance, meaning you have a heck of a time losing weight, or hirsutism, which is you're growing hair in places that you don't really want to be. You're waxing, you're lasering, you're plucking, that sort of thing. Those hormones there, those are more masculine hormones. Those really need to be checked. And then on the side there, you'll see in the pink, we have our estrogens. We don't just have one type of estrogen. We have multiple types of estrogen. Of course, the body, it's always got something complex going on. So when we're looking at, certainly in the perimenopause phase, we like to know what estrogen is doing. And estradiol is the most potent estrogen. But sometimes the body doesn't want potent estrogen all the time. So what it does is it has other forms of estrogen kind of as a backup and reserve, which is our E1 and E3, estrone and estriol. And we can talk about those too in terms of hormone replacement therapy, because I like to replace with E2 and E3. Anything else on this chart? DHEA is a really interesting hormone. It tends to be a more masculine hormone, and it's a good marker to know how your adrenal glands are doing. So if you feel like you're stressed out and burnt out and it's impacting your sex hormones, you can have your cortisol checked plus your DHEA, and that will give you a good idea of your adrenal glands, because these other hormones, progesterone, testosterone, estradiol, not testosterone so much, but progesterone and estrogen are produced in the ovaries. So DHEA is produced in the adrenal glands, so different place in your body. The DHEA is linked to a lot of longevity. People just feel good with it. It gives them a little bit of vitality. So yeah, that's sort of what I like to show, is that it's all linked together. And if you feel like your stress levels impacting your period, you're not crazy. And if you feel like you are growing hair in places and your period's not coming and you're not sure what's going on, you can have your androstenedione checked. It doesn't have to be a mystery. It's a blood test. Oftentimes it's covered under your like healthcare plan.
Mm. And I love what you said at the beginning, that cholesterol is not bad, because the cholesterol is the precursor to many hormones. So again, something to really mention to the women that are on statin medication and are having hormonal issue. I'm sure this is a conversation you probably have. Not that we're saying that one should not be done, but when medication or therapies are interlinked and not helping each other, I think it's important, correct?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yes. And if you're on a statin medication and you feel like your hormones have gone out of whack, well, let's look into that. I think the saddest part for me, I'll tell you what, and it actually saddens me sometimes when I sit with patients, particularly because I treat a lot of Black women. It can take 8 years sometimes I think it's funny, it's 8 years of perimenopause, but it can also take 8 years statistically for a Black woman to be properly diagnosed. And, there's many white women of all types that suffer for longer long periods of time where they feel like crap and they've never had any of these things investigated, and they're told, you're okay, and they just sort of accept that, I'm just going to have this life where my period sucks every month, or I just don't have a sex drive, or yeah. So I just let's get these people tested and into doctors like us.
Now, I mean, we could go different routes here, and I know you're also a big fan of detoxification when it comes to hormones. So let's, talk about that, and then let's talk about the gut, and then we'll circle back to the hormone pathways in terms of your views on supplementation, because bioidentical hormone and so forth, because this is a topic a question I get asked all the time. Natalie, what are your views on this? I mean, everybody's different. Every scenario is different, but I think, the people listening will be happy to hear your point of view. So let's go to the next visual, actually, which is all about, well, this is a slide of our liver. And Dr. Lydia, explain to us how our hormones are so connected with our liver.
Yes, I want to talk about this. Just to your point, though, about personalized. If you feel like you're going into somebody and they have a cookie cutter approach with you, just everybody's getting a birth control pill, they're kind of rushing you out the door, you don't have a sense that you're being heard, that might be okay in some instantly, you need an antibiotic maybe, and that gets prescribed quickly, fine. But for hormones, that's not the approach, because you're absolutely right. It does need to be personalized to the individual. And when you feel heard, you know that you're in the right place. And again, we bring up this slide, not because I want to take you through some science class, but because I want you to feel like you have power to make changes in your body. And in this instance, we're using the word toxins, and toxins are just anything that your body would like to get rid of and not hold on to anymore. And when it comes to hormones, your body tightly regulates that. When it's done with an estrogen, it would like it out of the system. Thank you very much. It doesn't want to be holding on to it. And there's things that we can do to promote this. Probably starting right off the bat, I think there's been an increase in women's alcohol consumption. And I think a lot of us need to maybe take a look at how much alcohol is impacting us from a sleep perspective, from a metabolism perspective, and certainly from a liver perspective. That's a very personal journey there, but never be afraid to make a change in your alcohol consumption. Change meaning reducing it, preferably not massively increasing it, because even that change can be quite profound. How do you feel about alcohol, Dr. Nat?
Well, it's funny that you say that, because I'm a big fan of Dr. Andrew Huberman's podcast, and he did a full episode on alcohol. And I think the latest research is showing that it's 2 drinks per week. But I have to agree that women and men are very different with that. And I personally do not drink much at all, because I just don't like the way I feel, and my sleep is impacted and so forth. So again, not to say that I don't enjoy a glass of wine here and there, but to me, the consequences and how I feel is just, not worth it. And I think the way women metabolize, and depending on, not that I want to get into different SNPs, which are little errors in our code. I don't like to say error, but changes in our code. We don't metabolize alcohol all the same way either. So again, I think we need to learn about ourselves and how it makes us feel, and then make decision based on that.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. Yeah, particularly if you have anxiety. If you have anxiety, you might feel good after a glass of wine, but it depletes GABA, it depletes a neurotransmitter in your brain that tells you to calm down. So the next day, I heard it described as stealing happiness from the next day. So if you feel like you're struggling with your mental health at all, try cutting out alcohol and see how you feel. So I think the point with this slide here is to kind of speak to how amazing your body is. So I want you to think about a salad dressing when you try to mix oil and water, and how you can shake and shake and shake. And those two things, they'll mix for a minute, but they always separate back out. So what your body's actually doing here is taking something fat soluble, so taking an oil like estrogen, because it has that cholesterol backbone, and it's actually making it into something that can mix into water, which is kind of incredible from my perspective, from like a chemical perspective. So cool. There's a whole bunch of nutrients here, and the point is not to memorize, oh, these nutrients help with this and those nutrients help with this. The point is to show that your body needs nutrition. It needs nutrients, and it needs it from a variety of sources. I think if I'm going to point out a few things to focus on here, I'd really like to mention the flavonoid piece. So flavonoids, a lot of people haven't heard of, they've heard of antioxidants. So flavonoids are particular antioxidants found in berries, purple beets, things that are purple and red, in our greens. Like you can see antioxidants. Antioxidants are pigmented. So when you pick up like a pomegranate juice, like you're looking at the flavonoids in that juice. So if you feel like you want to assist your liver in any type of way, the best thing you can be doing is to eat the rainbow, and you're going to cover your bases here. There are some people that need extra support from a B12 and folic acid perspective. They have that a little methylation issue that Dr. Nat alluded to, and you can have genetic testing done. There might be something that runs in your family. That might be another discussion, but some people do need that extra little B vitamin support. Fine. I don't think anybody really needs super high doses of B vitamins. Maybe there's a few people, but sometimes, you could take like a moderate dose product. Don't feel like you have to buy the most expensive B vitamin that's ever existed to get benefit. You don't. You're mostly going to be paying that out. So don't feel that pressure. On the other side, they're sort of phase 2. I'd like to point out things like taurine, methionine, cysteine. Those are what we call amino acids, and those are the building blocks of protein. So if you can imagine a pearl necklace, like the individual pearls are like methionine and cysteine, and then the whole necklace would be a protein. And it's very important that women get enough protein. I'm sure Dr. Nat, it's probably not.
Yeah, I'm nodding here saying yes.
Yes. So because your body actually uses protein for a variety of things, but one of the things it uses it for is to do all these little jobs in your liver that it needs to. Magnesium, I mentioned magnesium before. In terms of magnesium acts as a natural muscle relaxant for the uterus, but magnesium actually has over 250 different functions in your body. So if you're a person that doesn't eat a lot of nuts and greens, and you just kind of know you're not a big salad, you're not doing the kale smoothies, it's just not you, consider supplementing with magnesium. I do find that's a good one. A large swath of the population is deficient. Another way you know you're deficient in magnesium is you're constipated. I love magnesium for the fact that it will give you a nice regular bowel movement, nothing where you're running to the toilet and it's all hell's broken loose, nothing like that. Just nice regular bowel movements, but it also, your body uses it in your liver, uses it in your muscle tissue, uses it for your mental health. So it's just a very, very useful supplement. Anything else I want to point out here? Choline is an interesting one. That one's found in eggs. It's not technically a vitamin, but it does a lot of things in your body. So here what we're doing. So, okay, when is this a problem? This is a problem for anybody that has estrogen dominance, which often shows up as endometriosis and fibroids and heavy bleeding, lots of pain, clots passing, things of that nature. If you feel like that's you're like, yep, that's me. Getting some liver detoxification in your life works really, really, really well. And there's actually estro detox products on the market that you can buy that combine different ingredients together, so you don't have to piece this together. And I find they work really well. You just have to give it a little bit of time. Give it at least 3 months. Take the 2 or 3 capsules per day. And oftentimes people find that their period feels a lot better, and it feels better for this reason. You're getting rid of that excess estrogen.
That's so important. And to the point that, we can do intermittent fasting to do certain detox, which, I've done a segment not long ago on that, but those phase 1 and phase 2 just show us how we need to fuel our body with the vitamins and minerals and building blocks like the amino acid for the liver to do its job. So super important. So Lydia, we're going to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to discuss the gut, because unfortunately, so many people are constipated, not having proper bowel movement, and we can't detoxify properly, and it does affect our hormones. So we'll be right back.
In today's world, the flood of health information feels endless. But amidst the noise, two experts with over 50 years of combined clinical experience come together to help you with Smart Cuts, biohack your health span, cutting-edge protocols for greater energy and performance. Dr. Paul Sly, a beacon for athletes, weekend warriors, and those seeking to elevate their potential. And Dr. Natalie Beauchamp, renowned for empowering individuals in their health journeys. Together, they've produced the book, Smart Cuts, Biohack Your Health Span, a protocol-based treasure trove packed with actionable steps. Journey through 5 transformative sections. Dive into sleep, hydration, movement, brain health, and even the secrets of longevity. Guided by their expert hands, unleash the best version of yourself. With over half a century of clinical wisdom and innovative protocols, reclaim your health and redefine your limits. Are you ready to embark on this transformative journey? Smart Cuts, available now.
And we are back to Hack Your Health with Dr. Nat and my guest, Dr. Lydia. We were just discussing the liver and the importance when it comes to hormone. Now we're going to switch over to digestion and the gut. And for that, actually, let's bring the nice visual here because I think it is very exactly that visual for us to understand what is going on and how everything is connected.
Okay, again, we're not going to science class here. I'm going to give you a nice overview of this, so don't feel stressed by this diagram. I want to drive this point home too. Things that are good for your gut are good for your liver. So you don't need to make this whole complicated plan because oftentimes the nutrients, the prebiotics, the flavonoids, they're all in the same products that will help you have a bowel movement that will support liver health. So this can be very, very easy. You don't have to overthink this. It's almost, a lot of people actually know what they're doing. They just don't know why they're doing it. So here I'm explaining kind of the why. So we talked about the importance of getting out excess estrogen from the body. That's very important if you're having heavy periods, fibroids, endometriosis, or if you just feel like your mood is really a hot mess before your period. It can be very nice to reduce the amount of estrogen that you have relative to progesterone. So I just want to discuss that balance. So there's a lot of people that live in this estrogen dominant state, and there's 2 reasons that it could happen. Either you just have too much estrogen, you're not detoxifying it well, and so relative to progesterone, it's high, or you might have a stress steal where your body's stealing progesterone to make cortisol. That can be another reason. And sometimes both are going on too. So you really want a doctor that's thinking along those lines. Do they need estrogen detox or do they need stress support to produce more progesterone? So in this case, we're talking about how your body gets rid of estrogens, but this is also how your body gets rid of testosterone and progesterone. So once it's through the liver, your body uses a bowel movement. You poop out your hormones. That's essentially what you do. You'll urinate out some too, but really it's the digestive tract that gets rid of it. So if you are constipated and having hormone problems, one of the best things you can do is get on the regular bowel movement train. What does that mean? In North America, it's once a day. That's how you know if you're constipated or not. Technically, the medical definition is a bowel movement once every 3 days. Like from medical school, that's what they will tell you. But I don't know that many people that feel good pooping once every 3 days. What do you think about that, Dr. Nat?
I totally agree. And again, this is something that I've noticed that male tend to have more bowel movement than us females. So again, one difference with women, but totally agree. 1 bowel movement a day is what we should be aiming for.
Yes. And I do think, I want to acknowledge that there's a psychosocial aspect to our hormones. Women who have been through trauma, particularly have the ACEs score, adverse childhood events, are much more likely to have hormonal issues and dysregulation. So, if that's you, that you've had a traumatic childhood. I don't want you to feel like it's just because you're not eating enough spinach. Like there can be real reasons why these things are happening to us because there can be such a stress response in the body. If you're producing a lot of cortisol, what it does is it tends to impact the brain's communication with the ovaries. So that's kind of that link there. But what I want to show here, there's a word there, estrobolome, that a lot of people do not know about. There are bacteria in your gut that regulate hormone production. And that's why your digestion is so important. And it can kind of go 2 ways. You'll see the arrow going low or high. So what happens is if the bacterial profile in your gut deconjugates, like basically breaks down, like releases the hormone from its carrier to get it out of your system, your body will reabsorb it. And the liver has to do all that work all over again. So you can see what a disaster constipation is for your body's detoxing from hormones. So if you have endometriosis, fibroids, painful periods, heavy bleeding, you need to be releasing those hormones from your body, because look, your liver just went through all that work, and just for what? For you to reabsorb the hormone back in and has to do it all over again? That's just not a good time. It's not a good time for your liver. So, and okay, let's talk about probiotics, because a lot of people take probiotics and don't feel better. A lot of people take probiotics and actually feel worse. And a lot of people take probiotics and feel pretty good. Like it's kind of, I feel like it's like 30, 30, 30, like, or 33, whatever the breakdown would be of like a third, a third, a third. If you feel like probiotics don't really do much for you, it's because you need prebiotics, which would be the fiber-rich foods. So aim for having that bowel movement once per day. And and magnesium, right? The magnesium citrate, that often eases people's bowel movements as well. Chia seeds, they're very high in fiber. What are your go-tos, Dr. Nat, for constipation?
Definitely magnesium. I'm a big fan of probiotics and prebiotics, and I actually sprinkle some butyrate supplementation that I find that really helps me. I take some in capsule. They're hard to find some these days, I find. So I have it in liquid. So definitely that. And then me being a chiropractor is getting adjusted regularly, because the vagus nerve, which is the longest nerve in the body, basically controls the gut, that rest and digest system. So a lot of time I see patients coming in for their regular or for chiropractic care for maybe low back pain or menstrual cramp or headaches, and we start getting them adjusted. They're like, I don't know what we're doing here different. I haven't changed my diet, but my bowel movement is more regular. So for me, it is a big game changer. And like you said, the prebiotics food, which will increase the fiber and feed those bacteria. So the butyrate I was talking about, for people if they don't know, it's the breakdown. They're short chain fatty acid that are produced by the digestion of the fiber from our little bacteria. And there's a lot of bacteria in our gut. They need to be there. They're part of us, and they need to do the work, right?
Absolutely. Yes. And do you try different probiotic strains? Do you have a few that you like? Because
I cycle. Honestly, I like to not do the same all the time. I'm just going to start a brand new brand right now with the pendulum, the Carmen's. I can never pronounce.
Acromencia.
Yes, thank you. So I've just ordered it. I've never done that, so I'm always testing things on myself and see how my body responds. And when I say testing, it's not because this is not tested. It's just trying new things on me and see how my body responds. So yeah. Cool.
You made a really. Can I just speak to a point you made there? Yeah, just if you're constipated, cycle through different things. Like if this has been a lifelong journey for you, you've been constipated since you were 6 years old, like do what Dr. Nat is recommending. Try different probiotics, because what you'll find is that things work for a bit and then they stop working. But don't give up, cycle through, go get an adjustment. Body works amazing. And similarly to the trauma that I was speaking to before, I think when we hold things in our nervous system, chiropractic adjustments and osteopathic adjustments, I think they can be tremendously important for reminding the body that we're safe. I don't know, you'd be able to speak more to that, but.
Oh yeah, no, it's yes. I'm hoping to do a full show with someone who focuses on the polyvagal theory and the vagus nerve. So hopefully I can get the person on. But it's pretty amazing, from a physiological point of view, but also from a mental point of view as well, because the connection is there. Now, talking about probiotics, I think, can you talk about SIBO a little bit? Because they're part of the people that might be taking probiotics and not feeling great. So SIBO is small intestinal bacterial overgrowth, if you don't mind elaborating on that a little bit more.
Sure. So you're supposed to have a lot of bacteria, and I mean a lot of bacteria, trillions of bacteria, like more stars than you see in the sky, bacteria in your large intestine. But sometimes people get bacteria in their small intestine. And that's where you should be absorbing nutrients. It's not a totally sterile environment, but it's not where you want your bacteria. What will happen is that bacteria starts breaking down food, fermenting fibers, and you feel like heck, like you're bloated, you have stomach pain, you're having reflux, and it's a very tricky condition because we don't really test for it. The best test for it is a breath test, and you'll have to ask your doctor for it. I think regular labs, like I think you can get it through Life Labs if I'm not mistaken. But you really have to sometimes come with like a description to your doctor and be like, this is what I'm having. Can you test me, and really kind of lay it out for them? Or you'll have a naturopath or Dr. Nat or somebody that will communicate with your doctor about this. But it's more common than we think. And if you have chronic digestive stuff and if you feel terrible with the probiotic, it's definitely something to consider. I also think a lot about H. pylori, the bacteria that hangs out in your stomach and causes stomach ulcers as well. There's a lot of people hanging around with that. They just have stomach inflammation and pain. And it's another one that can take a heck of a long time to get diagnosed. Yeah, thank you so much for bringing that up.
Cool. So let's dig into testing. So you've mentioned, if someone goes to their doctor not feeling great and they get their hormone tested. And so explain to us, I guess, the difference with a regular blood lab, the basic one. And then I know we have a visual of saliva and a dried blood test. So this is a picture of it right now. So there's many things that can be tested. So if you don't mind speaking to that, that'd be great.
Yeah, let's talk about the blood testing that you get at the doctor. The problem with that is it usually comes back that everything's fine, and things are not fine. You do not feel well. Also, when you're getting hormone testing, you want to time your hormone testing, and there's really kind of 2 times to do it within the month. So if you feel like your hormones are low or diminishing, and you want to get it at their peak, you're going to want to test around day 5 of your period. That's when you're going to have a peak of progesterone and a peak of estrogen. Well, primarily a peak of estrogen, but progesterone will be there too. And so you can kind of catch what's going on at that point. So if you feel like things are falling off, like you're almost getting through premature menopause, like you're around 40 years old and you feel like, I feel like I'm going into menopause. I'm getting some hot flashes. I just don't feel that great. Like a vaginal dryness, day 3 to 5 is great. If you have a lot of period troubles, you're getting PMDD, like mood disorders before your period, I like day 21. So I kind of pick in between there, or like kind of a week before your period. Your practitioner will pick that out. But if you're going for a blood test from your regular doctor, think about what time in your cycle you're going, because hormones fluctuate over your cycle. First part of the cycle has a lot of estrogen. Second part has a lot of progesterone. So you want to pay attention to that and read your results and have your results read within the context of that. So if you can't, because that test is covered under a lot of your blood plans, OHIP in Ontario, etc. So there's a lot of other tests though that will look at the interplay. So this is just one example. I like that this test takes into account people's height and weight, because your hormones are dependent on your weight. If you weigh more, you'll have more estrogen, etc. I also like in this one, they're looking at cortisol, the major stress hormone, and they're looking at it 4 points in the day. Your cortisol should not look like this throughout the day. That's not good. You want to peak in the morning. That's actually what wakes you up in the morning. You have a 1 degree raise in your body temperature. You kind of warm up and your cortisol surges in the morning, and that's fine. That's great, excellent. But then throughout the rest of the day, you want to see it nicely go on a beautiful decline and then crash right before you go to bed. If you get that second wind, if you feel like you want to clean the house and solve the world's problems at 11 o'clock at night, it might be because you're getting that second cortisol spike, and you need to take like the ashwagandha, rhodiola, things that I mentioned before, kind of in that evening time to smooth out that transition into sleep, because it's such a disaster when you have that second wind. It's annoying too, because you're like tired during the day and then you're like up at 11 o'clock cleaning your blinds or something. It's just stupid. So so cortisol curve, that's a very important thing to look at. So this is 4 points. So basically with this one, this is a saliva test. You're spitting into a tube. Sounds weird, but you're just going to do it because you want to know what's going on. And then we're going down. We're looking at estradiol. That's the major estrogen that you have. This test probably will look at the other two too. I investigate those particularly in Black women. If you're a woman of color, it's good to know those other 2 estrogens as well. We didn't really dive into that, but it's it's important. Progesterone. And then this test is good because it gives you the ratio between progesterone to estrogen. And remember I said hormones are like an orchestra. You don't want your violins playing way louder than your flutes. The whole song's going to be off. So you want to know the ratio between these two. Your practitioner will be able to interpret that. But this is basically what's going to say, are you estrogen dominant or not? Right? And is it too much estrogen or not enough progesterone? I love that this one also includes testosterone, very important hormone for females, sex drive, muscle mass, and also just getting out there, decision making. It affects your mood a lot. You're much more firm in your decision making, and that's partly the problem with the birth control pill, because the birth control pill increases the next thing, SHBG, sex hormone binding globulin. You can think of it like a sponge. It basically takes hormones out of circulation. It will gobble up your estrogen, gobble up your testosterone, hold on to it so that it can't work anymore. It can't. So high sex hormone binding globulin tends to cause hormone problems because your body doesn't have access to the hormones that it needs. That's the problem with the birth control pill, is it raises sex hormone binding globulin. So women don't have access to testosterone and they feel weak and wimpy and their sex drive isn't great and blah, blah, blah. And then this one's also great because it looks at your thyroid. We didn't totally get into the thyroid. I'm sure Dr. Nat will have a guest on that dives into the thyroid at some point in time, but thyroid problems will mess up the way your brain talks to your ovaries, essentially. So
Yeah.
that's
Perfect. And then if we go to the next visual, which is another great recap of what we should see with the normal flow for cortisol, estradiol, progesterone, and testosterone throughout the cycle.
Yeah, so there's two main things I want to point out here. First, that cortisol curve. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Can you see even in this example here how the fourth dot is slightly higher than the third dot? Like it kind of goes boop at the end. That person may not sleep well, probably doesn't sleep well, probably has anxiety before they go to bed, probably is tossing and turning, probably is up in the kitchen. Maybe I need a snack or something to calm down. Like they're thinking about the emails. Like that's the curve I'm talking about. Even that little uptick is not what you want to see. You want to see it come down. Actually, that person looks a little sleepy in that third dot actually looks like it's a little bit low and they could use some support in that afternoon. They probably have an afternoon crash that takes them. It's so interesting how these hormones tell a story. And when you see a good doctor, what they'll do is they'll tell you a story about your blood results. That really is like, okay, this person is trying to help me. Because if they just give you your blood results, you don't know, what do you like? Come on, you're a teacher, you're a bank manager, like you need somebody to help you with this, right? The second thing I like about this is that it gives you a visual. It's a user-friendly. It's nice when you go to a doctor and they present you with some results that it's not just Greek to you. You can actually kind of look and say, okay, you know what? I leave feeling like I don't want you to have blood work done and you're more confused than than before you got it done. That's pointless and not very respectful to your time and effort to go get the blood draw, right? So I like these types of tests because they're very visual and they help people understand.
Perfect. Good. So, and as we can see too, like with the saliva test, the blood spot test, obviously there's blood draw that can be done as well. But those are the kind of tests that, go ahead.
No, sorry. I'm just affirming what you're saying. Yes.
Yeah, those are the kind of tests that you have to go and get either from the naturopath, the functional medicine for the people that are listening to us that are in the States, but those are available and they'll give you so much more insight than, again, just the regular blood test that you're going to go and not even paying attention to where in your cycle you were. It can be complicated and overwhelming for people and discouraging as well, as you said, because oftentimes women feel like they're not being heard because of not getting answers. So now let's dig into hormone and hormone replacement therapy, because this is something that you probably get so often. So when you order blood work and you talk to a female and obviously do a detailed health history, figure out, like you said, Is it estrogen dominance that we need to focus on detox and elimination? Is it a cortisol steal that is going to steal the building blocks of estrogen and progesterone? Then making recommendation. But when do you decide to suggest hormone replacement therapy, and maybe even talk about the women's health study that was done, and the research that was done that scared a lot of women from taking hormone replacement therapy? I know it was a long question, but I think starting with that study might be a good place to start.
Yes, that was an interesting study. That study was actually designed to look at cardiovascular outcomes specifically, but it ended up where there was a breast cancer thing happening and people got freaked out. So what ended up happening was so in a study, there's a control group where there's no treatment. You're just looking at them to kind of keep track of what's quote unquote normal. And then there's an intervention group where you're trying to do something, you're giving them hormones, etc., and you're going to compare the two groups. It just so happened in this study that the control group had a tremendously low rate of breast cancer. So comparatively, it looked like the treatment group had breast cancer out of control. So there was that factor. The other factor is the hormones they were prescribing were synthetic hormones. So when I say progesterone, that isn't the same thing as a progestin. They sound similar, but they're not the same thing. When I say estradiol, I'm not talking about the equine estrogen, equine meaning coming from horses. It's 8 different types of estrogen. They're different things. So in the Women's Health Initiative, they were not using bioidentical hormones. Bioidentical means they exactly match what your body makes. So when something doesn't exactly match what your body it means your liver has to do some work to make it what it needs. And in that, there can be other offshoots of metabolites that cause problems for you. So that's the main thing with that study. That being said, the number one thing I look at is how a woman feels, because it's really important to me that we feel well, and that guides whether or not they need hormones. If somebody's going through menopause and they feel great, they don't have strong histories of Alzheimer's, they don't have a lot of metabolic syndrome, it looks like their bone density is going to be okay, they don't need hormones. They can just go smoothly into menopause and live their life, and more power to them. But there's some women that it's a hell of a ride for them, and we have an answer. Bioidentical hormones do work. The biggest thing for me with hormones is that you just need somebody watching you. You need to have some regular testing. Let's make sure that you're staying within reasonable limits. If you're, 56 years old, you don't need to have the hormones of somebody that's 22. Let's keep you in a range where maybe you're 46 years old. Maybe, that's fine. The timing with initiation is really important too. So the best time, the time for menopause is on average 51, 52. It's in there. There could be a long time leading up to that, but around there. So you want to initiate treatment within that 10-year span, 51, 52, up to 60. After 60, it's a bit of the wild, wild west in terms of the research. I'm not saying that you'd never do it, but it's not my preference. I personally don't really do it. So around 50, if you want to initiate, if you want to give it a try, you can, and we can go low and slow. That's kind of what I do with dosing. You can always take more, you can't take less. And I also choose whether I'm going to use a cream or an oral dose. Sometimes I'll use oral progesterone because it's very good for sleep. That's a huge thing. If you feel like insomnia is just kicking your butt and you're waking up at 3:00 in the morning and you're just like, I cannot sleep, progesterone works wonders. It's really, really excellent, especially if you have that tendency towards anxiety. It just tickles those GABA receptors and you really calm down. It's really, really lovely. So yeah, I use bioidenticals. I use them quite a bit, not in every case, but I like it to be on the table for people. Like, unless you have a strong breast cancer history in your family or something of that nature, but your doctor will screen. A good doctor screens for contraindications. You're going to have those conversations. You're not just going to give out hormones like it's Halloween candy or something, right? So yeah, it's a good thing though, in my mind. Actually, because a lot of women suffer. We have a tremendous amount of progesterone and estrogen receptors in the brain. And a lot of women, they're at the peak of their career. They've got everything going for them. They're 50, their kids are a little older now. They're ready to travel and just kill it at work. And they're like, I'm walking into rooms and I can't remember why I'm here. Like, it's actually kind of scary to me and it's annoying to me. So a little bioidentical estrogen progesterone really helps with the cognitive effects just to keep you on top of your game. Like, you've worked your whole life, feel amazing.
Yeah, and I think one point that you made too, it's important to get tested. And that's another thing sometimes that people will get on a protocol of whatever, and nothing is tested on a regular basis. So if you go on bioidentical hormone, important to, obviously focus on how you feel, but also get tested regularly so you know you're in the proper range, right? So monitoring is important.
Yes, and if you've experimented maybe with the equine estrogen or progestins, things that your medical doctor has given you, there's nothing wrong with going to Dr. Nat or naturopath, whoever, and getting, a saliva test or a blood test, getting advanced testing and saying, okay, is this medication really working for me? And if it comes back and the results are all good, then, more power to you. But, it's just, yeah, get tested. Don't, it doesn't have to be a mystery. That's the point with testing.
No, exactly. And I mean, the tests are several $100, but well worth the money, if you ask me, with the information that you're getting. So Dr. Lydia, we could talk for probably another hour when it comes to hormones, but we have to go. So if people want to reach you, drlydia.com, and I know that you are licensed in Ontario, Canada, and you do virtual as well. So if anyone needs help to have a chat with Dr. Lydia and see what she can do for you, or, if you're not local to Ontario, you're in the States, there's many great functional medicine doctor that will have a holistic look at you to help you with your hormone, because as pointed out so well, we need to be validated that we're not going crazy as women and that there's help out there and we don't have to suffer and be miserable, right?
Absolutely. Well said. Yes.
Thank you. So thank you very much for tuning in to Hack Your Health with Dr. Nat. We talked about keys to hormone balance. I learned a few things myself, and I hope that you did, and that you can start asking questions and figure out what you need to do for yourself and take action. So until next week, be well.
Welcome to Dr. Natalie's 7-Day Hack Your Health Challenge. Transform your fitness level with 7 quick, do them from anywhere workouts. Look and feel great. Nutrition. Master the art of optimizing your diet and maximizing nutrient intake with daily nutrition challenges. Biohacking. Unlock exclusive content to tap into your body's innate wisdom. Take on challenges to optimize your mindset and physiology. Ready to transform your health? Visit www.drnat.life to join Dr. Natalie's 7-Day Hack Your Health Challenge. Your journey begins now.
This has been Hack Your Health with Dr. Nat. Tune in each week and uncover simple yet powerful strategies and actionable steps to elevate your health and wellness.